But what I'm learning is the American dream is not reality for everyone, except for the privileged few. The truth is, this American dream mindset is based on white supremacy. And if you think white supremacy is just hatred for people of color, it is so much more than that. White people aren't the problem. White supremacy is the problem. David Gilborn, he addresses the idea of whiteness. Whiteness is a racial discourse, whereas white people are a socially constructed identity. White people don't necessarily reinforce whiteness any more than heterosexual people reinforce or are homophobic. I'm betting most white people haven't educated themselves on this idea of whiteness. We can't see the problem of white supremacy because we've lived free from it our whole life. White supremacy is our privilege. It's who we are. To call it out is to call out our very being. It's no wonder that white people get defensive. Okay, I'm just going to vent for a minute. I'm continually amazed at some of the comments I get from white people about my thoughts on white supremacy. They act like it doesn't exist, like I'm talking nonsense. I said in a recent post, if you only hang out with white people, then you're racist. A lot of them said that's a silly take, and instead of maybe looking at their own lives to question if maybe it's true, they get defensive and argue semantics like, well, people have a mostly homogenous friend group that share their same background. Yes, exactly my point. That is white supremacy. Read a book. But when I suggest that, they decline. They've clearly not educated themselves by walking in another person's shoes. Maybe the biggest problem in this for white people is that they're too afraid to admit their own role in racism because they don't want to get uncomfortable. If you've ever gotten into a disagreement with another person and it turns out that you were in the wrong, it takes a whole lot of security, humility, to own your shit, to apologize. And if you can't do that, well then chances are that relationship won't last long. You will perpetuate harm. And that's what white people have done to people of color. I wonder if these white people are talking to me, a fellow white person, like this, then how are they talking to people of color who call out white supremacy? That is scary. And as a white person, I apologize on behalf of others who've caused harm, who continue to ignore the very serious problem of racism. And I know that's not enough, which is why I'm a social worker trying to do some good in this fucked up society. Is white supremacy. Figure things out on your own. Go make money. Anybody can do it. Hide, bury, ignore your emotions. This is white supremacy because this is an individualistic mindset. The opposite of that is owning the pain that you have inflicted on others and doing something about it. Maybe the biggest problem in this for white people is that they're too afraid to admit their own role in racism because they don't want to get uncomfortable. As a white person, it's one thing to talk about ending racism. It's another thing to take actual steps towards that end. I'm finding a lot of support and encouragement to keep using my voice in this fight. And at the same time, who am I to speak to this problem? I have white friends. I'm just another white dude with my own contributions to racism. So I figure let's just get into it. What's the difference between talking about it and taking action? In my last post, I captioned it, "Ignorant White People." It seems that what most of us oblivious whites get wrong is that regardless of guilt or fault, we need to admit we're uneducated on this topic. Just admit it already. If you're a white person who gets defensive, stop. History has shown us where
The American dream is not American dream anymore. Remember when black people used to cry, used to talk about this, used to talk about how unfair the United States is towards melanated people in the United States. Some people say that black people are lazy. Some people say that black people need to pull themselves by the bootstraps. And all this sounded so heavy in the hearts of black people because, in as much as they were trying, all of what they were doing was fertile. Why? Because they were competing in a system where it was designed for them to fail for black people, right? But as the reality hit and time unfolded, people started to know the truth. And the American dream, which was American dream for white people, now turned against also white people. And people are realizing that it's damn hard. The life is damn hard. But there's this bold white man that comes out and claims that that claims that American dream is for the white supremacists. Who are the white supremacists in this case? The white supremacists are the oligarchs, are the people that owns 99% of the wealth, 99% of the world's wealth, for the Americans' wealth. You understand? And so it becomes so much difficult for them to understand, bearing the fact that black people talked about this long time ago. So, brothers and sisters, as you are watching this video, I want you to think about this. Do you think America was ever great? And if it was great, who was it great for? Because there's this slogan, Make America Great Again. Well, Make America Great Again was for white people because to them, they are the ones who are enjoying all these privileges. Make America Great Again was never for black people because all these systemic issues that are happening and that were happening, black people tried to talk about them for the longest time. Black people tried to warn people about them for the longest time. And hey, this is what they got. Maybe you are not working so much hard. Maybe you are lazy. Or maybe you didn't learn. Or maybe you're not just doing enough. All these phrases that have been used to black people. But today, what you're seeing a white person coming out and trying to talk to you, to make you understand that it was never the black people that were complaining, only that they were going through difficulties. White people are now coming out complaining about the same problems black people have been talking about. So brothers and sisters, as you buckle up for this video, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership if you haven't joined the channel, right? And so let's get into it. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. So let's keep watching. I'll be back with my commentary in regards to this, brothers and sisters.
all guilty. I'm trying to own that and educate myself. And if you are too, start with Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I also said one of the reasons why some can't or won't take that first step is because we're afraid to get uncomfortable. It requires a hell of a lot of humility to admit you're wrong. And that's something that's just lacking across the board in our society. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my life, I'm still learning, is that even when I don't think I've done anything wrong, someone else's perspective is no less true. And to wholeheartedly care for that person requires setting aside my own shit and understanding life from their point of view. So stop deflecting, excusing yourself or whatever, and get uncomfortable. Join this conversation without getting defensive. Start these discussions in your own circles. So that's a beginning. But then what actual steps do we need to take as white people? In what ways do we need to get uncomfortable? Well, this is where shit starts to get uncomfortable. Realizing the specific action to take is a challenging thing to do because we can't possibly understand what it's like to be targeted by racism. As a white person, how do I even put myself in the shoes of people of color? My privilege is attached to my skin. I can't separate from it. I mean, can we ever truly comprehend the lived experience of being abused by systemic injustices? If a friend loses a loved one and you've never experienced that pain before, you wouldn't say to them, "Oh, I know how you feel," because you don't. And if you just rambled on and on about how life goes on, you'd only make it worse. We can't know how people of color feel, so shut up and quit pretending like you do. Maybe this is where we failed people of color. We can't relate, so we buy into the bullshit we've been told our whole lives, like everybody has an equal shot. Just work hard. If you fuck up, then that's your own fault. I mean, we say things like this instead of looking at the serious offenses being committed every day right in front of us. Innocent people being murdered for the color of their skin. Concentrated areas of poverty void of grocery stores because white people won't make money if they build one there. Discrimination against people of color and getting a good education and a decent job, and on and on. Getting uncomfortable means facing the truth of this oppression, sitting down with the person of color, listening to their story, putting yourself in a setting to feel the actual weight of this atrocity, feeling it in the pit of your stomach like you just lost your whole world. When we feel that, maybe we can start to make a change. I don't see too many white people doing that work, though. I'm going to be honest, I've only scratched the surface of taking these steps myself. I need my friends to keep calling me out. I have a lot more to do. We all do. And this is my journey as a human being, to be committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's why I'm a social worker. It takes a whole lot of security, humility, to own your shit, to apologize. And if you can't do that, well then you will perpetuate harm. And that's what white people have done to people of color. So we all know about fight or flight, right? When our nervous system senses danger, we respond by either fighting back or by running away. It's pretty obvious, pretty clear. So when certain white people are called out for their white privilege, what we know as the very covert forms of white supremacy that are still so prevalent in our society today, why do they respond with such hate? Like, they get mad at you for suggesting that. They want to fight you on it. The question is, white people, why do we feel threatened? I think you know why.
You have no idea how harmful white supremacy is. It does not just manifest in the form of overt violence, like police officers pulling the trigger or hate groups marching in the streets. White supremacy kills in the classroom, where black children are disproportionately disciplined, placed into special education, and denied access to advanced coursework due to the implicit biases of their teachers. It kills in the workplace, where black professionals are underpaid, overworked, and overlooked for promotions despite their qualifications. It kills in the doctor's office, where black patients receive lower quality care and their pain is dismissed and their health outcomes suffer as a result. It even kills in the supermarket, where black communities are systematically deprived of fresh food, forcing them into nutritional deserts that contribute to long-term health disparities. White supremacy is not just an ideology, it's a system designed to choke the very existence of black people at every level of society. And you do not have to call someone the N-word to uphold white supremacy, nor do you have to wear a hooded sheet. White supremacy operates in the mundane, the unnoticed, in the everyday decisions that maintain racial hierarchies. It exists in school curriculums that erase black history or frame enslavement as a necessary economic system. It exists in housing policies that continue to segregate communities, ensuring that black families are kept in underfunded districts with failing schools. It exists in the criminal justice system, where black people are over-policed, sentenced more harshly for the same crimes as white defendants, and disproportionately killed by law enforcement. It exists in a bail system that imprisons black people for being too poor to afford their freedom, while wealthier white defendants walk free. It exists in the environmental policies that allow corporations to pollute black communities with little consequences, shortening life expectancy without a gun ever being fired. It exists in the way white-centered narratives are prioritized and protected, while any effort to challenge them is met with backlash, censorship, and outright hostility. The danger of white supremacy lies in how normalized it has become, how deeply it's woven into the fabric of everyday life. Many people do not recognize it because they've never had to. They believe racism is only individual acts of hatred rather than the institutional and systemic forces that shape the world around them. They do not see how their silence, their comfort, and their refusal to acknowledge this system makes them complicit in its survival. White supremacy is not just the past, it is the present, and without deliberate action, it will continue to shape the future. Until people are willing to confront the depth of its harm, to see how it suffocates and destroys, nothing will change. And that is exactly how white supremacy was designed to function. And I'm sure it wants to bury this video in the algorithm too.
I want to know what percentage of gas guzzling, climate killing, noise polluting, road hogging, excessively speeding, needlessly oversized pickup truck owners are white males. Because I swear it's got to be like 99%. More proof that white people think they run this planet. All right, there are seriously harmful societal implications associated with the pursuit of expertise in higher education that have their roots in white supremacy. Here's an example, and I'll get into why this is problematic. I just saw a company vehicle that was promoting its home inspection service with the phrase "Certified Master Inspector" stickered on the side. We don't think much of it, like this is very normal in our society, but think about what it means to attain that title. We live in a capitalistic society where everyone is trying to sell you something. And if you can convince someone that they need what you have, you sell more. A surefire way to do that is to become the expert. But in a for-profit environment, what are the costs of earning that honor? Here's one. The process of gaining certificates and degrees, knowledge and expertise separates those with that privilege from those without. Seems harmless, and many are going to defend it, I'm guessing. But one quote-unquote benefit to this separation or authority is that it allows you to charge more money for your services. It allows you to sell more, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing. I mean, if it's a legit organization that is concerned with human...
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. Now, the American dream was never designed as a universal dream. We all understand that because the American dream is often presented as a universal promise that if you work hard, you succeed. That's meritocracy, right? But historically, the dream was never intended for everyone. It was built on land taken from indigenous people, wealth created by enslaved Africans, and an economy structured to uplift white immigrants while excluding non-white groups. And for centuries, laws, housing policies, banking practices, and educational systems were explicitly designed to ensure that white upward mobility. When people now say the American dream is not for everyone, especially this white person that talked, is acknowledging that the dream was structurally racialized from the beginning, and its benefits were not randomly distributed, but deliberately engineered, right? Now, what may now what many are now exposing is that the American dream is rooted in a racial hierarchy. Historically, success, quotes and quotes, in America meant proximity to whiteness. Why? Because whiteness was tied to full citizenship. Whiteness was tied to property rights. Whiteness was tied to job access. Whiteness was tied to political representation and safety. And now, the idea of dream only worked because millions of others were denied the same access. Black Americans were excluded from wealth building programs like the GI Bill. They were redlined out of neighborhoods, over-policed, and denied generational wealth. This is why scholars argue that the American dream was white by design. It was about merit. It was about maintaining a racial advantage, and that kept whiteness at the top of the social order. Let me explain it to you. Something that today we call the social order, or how the social order follows itself. It's something we need to understand. You know, the classism and the classification of human beings in regards to race was something which was happening. Remember during the 19th century when eugenics came and people started seeing black genes as not favorable genes. There was so much class stratification, and there's so much class stratification in regards to even wealth accumulation, right? So all these things were affecting each other. And you need to understand that black people were at the bottom of that social hierarchy, right? Black people were at the bottom. And when you are at the bottom, it means that first, you did not get education. Two, when you don't have education, you did not get wealth. Three, there was planting cracks in the black community. In fact, it is being said, and it has been confirmed, that it is the white community that introduced the crack culture in the black community. Black were never using all these cracks. I'm sorry about that. Blacks were never using the cracks, but the white community introduced them to the cracks. After introducing them to the cracks, they got addicted. And now they started policing the black community. They started calling the police the over-policing of the black community. That's how it happened. And once you are sent to prison, it means that every moment you are out of the prison, you can never get a job. And so the system was never for black people. You can see how the meritocracy worked. As the white community continued accumulating wealth over and over and over and over and over, you understand they left black people at the pedestal of trying to climb the ladder, of trying to make the name, of trying to prove to the world that they are the greatest of all time. But all that they were considered insane, or they were considered that they were not putting work as compared to any other people, right? Now, when you see a white person comes to expose these truths, it is significant because they are breaking a silence that has been protected, that has protected the system for centuries. Many white people were raised on the myth that their success was purely the result of their personal effort, not racially privileges embedded in the system. And those who speak out are saying, we were lied to. The system is not fair. It was built for us at the expense of others. These confessions disrupt the narrative that America is a meritocracy and forces society to confront the realities of structural racism. These voices often come from white people who feel morally uncomfortable benefiting from a system that disadvantages others. Also, many white Americans are now disillusioned because the promises of the dream are collapsing even for them. Wages are stagnant, housing is unaffordable, healthcare is broken, and the cost of living becoming so much unbearable. Brothers and sisters, they are now realizing that the American dream was not only racialized, but also unstable, unsustainable. The truth is becoming unavoidable. The same system that oppressed black and brown communities is now failing white working class communities as well. So when we speak out, they often say, If the system was truly fair, we wouldn't be struggling like this. They see that the benefits of whiteness still exist, but they no longer guarantee prosperity in a collapsing economic order. Right? So, all these exposures that are happening, they are really important because they show what truly the United States is for. Historically, white supremacy maintained unity among whites, even poor whites, by convincing them that their skin color placed them above black people, and regardless of class. But today, many poor and middle class white Americans feel abandoned by the elites. The political and economic structure benefits only the top 1%, not ordinary white families. When white America exposed the racial hierarchy, it's not always out of guilt. It is often because they feel betrayed by a system that once promised them security. They realized they realized that white supremacy only serves elites, not everyday white citizens. This creates a moment where the truth becomes easy to speak. If the dream is failing, then it's myths which cannot be protected. In the same line, as more white people acknowledge these truths, the myth of the American dream loses its power. The country can no longer be pretend that it was successful. It was about effort while ignoring centuries of exclusion and exploitation. Scholars argue that America is entering a phase of myth collapse where people see through the illusions of fairness and equality. This collapse is forcing conversations about reparations, structural inequity, and the need to rebuild the dream on a foundation not based on race. When white people participate in this exposure, it widens the conversation that makes it harder to dismiss racial truths, telling us complaining or playing the race card, right? So for black Americans, the exposure of the dream's racial foundation is both validation and opportunity. For generations, black people have spoken about systemic inequality, only to be told they were exaggerating or imagining it. Now, white voices are confirming the truth long known in black communities. This shift does not solve the problem, but it creates a political and social space to demand real change. It also signals deep moral crisis within white America, a moment where some are willing to confront the uncomfortable reality that the dream was built on black Americans' exclusion. In that sense, the exposure of the American dream racial foundation becomes a turning point, a moment when the country either faces truth or continues collapsing under its own contradictions. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think about this video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Jintok Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. And peace, love, and harmony. Salute. Bye-bye.